Okay guys, we're dealing with the ASH26 here. Just got done kind of building this length for the red LEDs, but as you can see they're not terribly bright, but they're also not hot, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this stuff out of the way here. What we need to do is find the correct resistor size. 100 ohms was a little bit too much. Quarter watt 100 ohms was a little too much, I should say. So 10 ohms is going to be too little. Let's try the 39. It's probably going to get hot, but it'll be nice and bright. I wouldn't even say that that's crazy bright, to be honest. And don't mind the flickering. The flickering is normal when you've got this little chintzy wire stuck into the breadboards like this. I'm just feeling for temperature. Okay, so now we just need to let that cook for a little bit. We have to get the other wing ready, and so we'll do that. Same wire. The difference is we'll be running to green LEDs, and the rationale behind letting this cook for a minute is so we can really see if it warms up. Like right now it's warmed up a little bit, but it's not warmed up a lot. And then these LEDs are still doing pretty decent. If you can't tell, use a temperature gauge or put it up against your lip. Your lip is more sensitive to temperature than your fingertips. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that go and cook for a little bit. Oh, you know what? This has a green strip on it. Okay, yep, so that is a 51 ohm resistor. The green ones, you'll be amazed how much brighter they are. I mean, it's a big difference. It's more than just a little. So while that runs, yeah, it's really not getting too hot. I'm surprised. I thought in the past I had to do more. Oh, that's because I would only run one at a time instead of two. The second LED does consume some of the current. Okay. See, we've got a black mark on there. That's our negative side for the green. I'm sure some of you are like, geez, clean your tip, please. I agree, guys. Trust me. My tip cleaning thing is getting worn out. I need to replace it. My fingers are getting hot. This one's being a pain. Oh, it's because it re-bridged onto the other side. See, now it's free on the one side, so it should pop right off. Let's check temperature here. Yeah, we're doing okay on that. So the 39 ohms is fine. Alright, so I got one green. Like I said earlier, we hang on to those for the surface mount resistors. One green with the negative away from us, so we'll just stick that down onto the sticky portion of our little test area. Sorry, we're just marking the negative side here. Sometimes I'll use the color of the LED to mark the negative side because I really don't care to mark the positive and negative. I've done it a couple of times, but it's usually just a waste of time because it's pretty obvious, you know. I don't know why I started with this side. I should have started over here. This side's easier because that resistor makes it a little bit more rigid. So I usually do that one last. It's a little easier once you remove the other three. I don't think you guys could probably see in the video, but when you touch this to the light, it will light up. Which is kind of cool. Okay, so the negative is facing away from me. Just stick it down there. I want this thing to match as closely as possible to the red, both in intensity. I can live with the amount of heat that that's producing. It's not much. But both intensity and in placement on the wing. So in order to accomplish that, we need to have our gap about the same, which it looks like we've done that pretty good. So we'll just leave this over here for now. In fact, we'll go ahead and power this down. There's no advantage to having it running right this second. We'll come right back to it. Now let's do the same approximate length. So this is how I'm figuring the length. Just longer than I need. And then loop it back to meet the length of the other piece. Okay. So nothing too complicated there. We'll have extra, and that's fine. It would be better if you could do the exact amount, but I've just learned it's easier to have too much and not need it. Okay, now on this wire, we're just gonna grab and pull this tight. It's kind of tangled a little bit on me. Okay, so just tugged on it a little bit. I just slip this underneath the tape. Keeping in mind, one side of this is going to get a resistor anyway. So the exact same length is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Okay, so one of these is going to be negative, one's going to be positive. I don't care which one's which. Doesn't matter to me. We'll label it when we're done. Strip off the coating on there. Get a little bit of fresh solder onto the tip next. Man, this tip is just getting ridiculous. Okay, so that's good. That got our placement shored up. Get that varnish melted off. Okay, got it. Okay, so now we can take this and give it a tug. Something with a sharp edge you can trim the excess wire with. Very good. One of these is going to go right back under that one. Okay, so that's our negative. So we're going to mark that clearly with a marker on the end, keeping in mind that this portion is not going to be exposed or visible. Okay, so now we need to just tin the ends of this. Okay. Looks like we fell off of there. Maybe I never stuck it down. I don't know. Okay, so we'll grab the other end, which of course is our positive end. I'm going to take the negative end right now, stick it into a random spot on the breadboard. So we've got a channel ready to put a resistor into. Let's tin this last end for the green. Okay, that's going to be our positive. Okay, so we got that plugged in there now. So, I don't know, I guess I'll try 51 ohms because that's what I already have out and ready to test with. Not that there's any rationale behind using 51 ohms for the green. It's probably going to be significantly brighter than the red, which for me is a bit of a problem. So my guess is one up picking something different anyway. Okay. So we're plugged in there. Okay, so we have the red and the green. See the green and the red. The green is brighter than the red, so we can go a little bit bigger, a little bit more resistance, because I don't think we can get away with doing any. I would like to do less on the red because that would make it brighter. Like maybe we could do 239s just to see what happens, which that's going to cut the resistance in half. So let's see what it looks like. Not a big difference. So really, we need to reevaluate the green, possibly. Let me see what I've got. I'm going to pause this for just a second while I evaluate my choices. And we'll come right back and I'll show you what we picked. Alright guys, so I ended up with 180 ohms on the green and 22 ohms on the red. And you notice the green is a little bit brighter than the red, but just barely. The green one's always brighter. So that being understood, I was able to go all the way down to the 22 ohms. When I went to 15 ohms, which was the next step in my series here, I started to see a deterioration in quality of the lower LED. So I said that's enough. Alright, so now what we got to do is we've got to actually go ahead and I would like to solder this to the black line, but we don't know exactly how long we're going to need it yet. So we'll come right back to that. The other thing is I switched to a bigger pack just to make sure I was getting adequate voltage for the BEC to produce the full 5 volts that we anticipate, because we don't want to size the system and then put it in with a good battery on this and have it fry right away. That would be no fun. There wasn't a negligible, unappreciable difference there at all. So just, you know, between the really messed up battery and then that slightly less messed up one. Okay, so just double check as you go. Definitely negative is marked. Okay, cool. The positives are both going to come out together because they're tied together right at the moment. They won't be when we're done. Okay. So now my objective here at the end of the day is to have these two LEDs straddle this point on the front of the wing right here. Okay. And I hadn't thought about it yet, but I guess I could come out here onto the winglet if I really wanted to make it outboard as far as possible. I could even conceivably put it at the top here. I think it's going to look weird if I put it up there. I always want the lights to be as far outboard as I can possibly make them without giving anything up structurally. Now, I thought about cutting these in, but I just decided basically against that because for practical purposes, I want them mostly pointed forward and down, because usually the plane is in an upright configuration. If I'm upside down, I'm not flying upside down in the dark. Or not at like twilight when I have a low light condition. So now is the scary part again. Lots of scary parts, guys. Time to make sure this thing is going to be as awesome as I expect it might be. So, just to recap, I'm going to glue this here, and then I'm going to pull this tight, and I'll probably end up taping it the whole length of the way, because that's the most removable method. Come on, autofocus, would you please? It just does not want to focus here. I don't understand what the big problem is. Probably all the background stuff. There we go, finally. Kind of the way this project has gone. These LED projects, guys, they're a huge pain in the butt. But I'll tell you what, I love flying at twilight. And if this is what it means for me to be able to fly at twilight, then that's just life, I guess. Okay, so one good quality drip there in the middle, just to kind of get it tacked in place. A little bit of kicker. Make sure it's set up. Actually going to stay put. Okay. Oh, that son of a gun glued to me. Okay, watch this, guys. This is funny. More kicker. Oh, that son of a gun. I need it to unglue from my finger, because I don't want to screw it up with my finger. I'm not really worried about the paint or cutting it off or anything like that. I'm just totally worried about destroying the LED after all that work. I think it's just the glue on the surface here. Yeah, that's just glue. Oh, thank goodness. We lucked out, guys. Sometimes these LEDs will literally split in half. And that's what I was afraid had happened. Okay, so we'll do it again. We'll just spritz that and then hold this in place for a second, and then we'll remove our finger before we actually put the glue in. And there's our little bit of glue. Okay, now we don't want that to run like crazy. And they will tend to do that if you're not careful. So, alright, so now what we'll do is we'll just kind of chase this back. Boy, it's really tempting to just take it to this edge and then over. But honestly, I think we're just as good to just pull the dang thing straight and be done with it. And not make a thing of it, you know? So I'm just using some masking tape here. Ideally, we'll walk this over with no... You don't want them to tangle over the top of each other. Okay. Okay, just hold that down nicely. Then we're just going to double check our positioning to see if they're going to trip over each other. It's very hard to tell on this small wire. So I'm just going to untape it. And then retape it. I think I screwed that up though. Nope, I think we're good now. Okay, so the option now becomes, do we pull this down to make it look, you know, more neat, which I think would probably be beneficial. Obviously, I don't think it's going to make any real difference in the quality of flight performance. Quality or flight performance is what I meant to say. So I'm going to just hold that tight in the position I'd like it to be. And I'll just tape it. And so that's literally what we're going to do. Now we just need to figure out if we're going to do a vinyl tape like electrical tape, or if we're going to go straight to the clear tape and just forget about the trying to cover it up at all. I don't know yet. Good questions. And they're questions that we don't have to answer right this second, so we're going to wait and answer them later because we can. So now we need to terminate these leads, but I should be able to do that over on the bench. I'm going to get this thing set up over there. Alright, I changed my mind. I'm going to just tape this down and be done with this step. So you'll notice I have vinyl tape in my hand. So I'm just pushing that down. I used a piece of tape beyond to hold it tight as I do this step. Okay. Now this vinyl tape, if you pull it too tight, it'll just stretch and then compress back. So we're going to see how this goes. This may not work great, but it's not going to hurt anything if it doesn't. It just won't look as good as we want it to. And that's why I'm comfortable trying this first. Because if it works fine, then what have we lost? Nothing. If it works great, what have we gained? Not cutting the wing at all. My guess is it's probably not going to be up to my ridiculous standards. I need to move this tape down just a little bit though. I figured that would happen. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this tight again. Okay, very tight actually. I don't want to screw up that number. Okay, so just pressing that down a little bit there. Make sure the wires are pulled tight. Actually stick it down on the green tape. What I want to do is walk this so that it doesn't have to wrap the edge. See, just like that, and then I can work it from one side to the other. And so it's almost like a decal. I mean, you do have a little bit of a bump there because of the wire, of course, but it's very minimal, very minimal. The other thing I think about doing is, if this works nicely, there's nobody saying I can't take and depress this into the, just cut it straight into the top layer of wood. Okay. So now this piece is going to come over here, but it's going to stop just short. Now this part may end up needing to get redone because the nature of the kicker. And so I'm going to be careful, but I'm not going to like worry so much if it's not perfect. Okay, so I'm going to just push this down. Just chase right to the edge. But then for these LEDs, I'm going to actually cut at an angle here. Like that. I'm going to cut straight back. I know some of you guys are cringing at this setup here. I don't blame you. But if I would have built this wing from scratch, I would have made sure that the wires were channeled through prior to its assembly. Of course, I didn't build it. Okay, great. So we've got that there, and to be perfectly honest, it's looks pretty good. I don't think anybody's going to be able to see it at all. So now I can turn this over. Just kind of dig this into the bean bag there. And we can get this glue going a little bit. It looks like we clogged our tip a little bit. Okay, so we're going to put a little drip between them. And that kicker will flow just everywhere, you know, so kind of got to be prepared to deal with it. Okay, so I've got this I've got that coated now so that it's encapsulated in the CA. And that's not to say that there's not going to be more added. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more added, but oh. That I don't want. Okay, so now we're going to let that sit. Now we're just going to leave that to sit while we go ahead and get the next step done. Love the autofocus, don't you guys? Alright, so the next step is to get this over to the bench, and we're pretty much done with part 5. We'll pick it back up where we're wiring up the servo leads to this red LED with the resistor. Thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more on the ASH26 LED nav light mod.